everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Uncorked Live. I'm Mel here with Karen. We're so excited this month, or actually, we're a little perplexed, and we're excited to talk to you about it because we've been thinking and feeling so many changes.
Mhm.
And what better time to bring that up than spring? You're thinking about it.
And we're talking about it.
Uncorked Live with Karen Glasser and Mel Greenberg. Making the most of life's peak stage and sharing it all with you.
Mel, it's March. How did that happen? I mean, it's the third month of the year. Oh my
I
gosh.
don't know. It goes so quickly. You blink, it's true. You just blink and it's
It's
over.
and it's over.
We're
So I think
onward.
we need to drink to that, right?
I do
We need
think
to drink
so.
to that. Cheers.
Cheers. And welcome back, everybody. We talked about this and we talk about how we go through change. And I love the idea of being fearful or fearless.
hmm
And, which are you? I don't tend to be both. I don't know. How about you?
I tend to be fearless, and then think about it afterwards. I tend to jump into almost everything, and then revisit it because sometimes the things that I jump into I shouldn't. But I
Oh,
will say that I'm fearless. I think I am fearless. There is nothing that I don't think I can do.
I agree with that, and I've always kind of approached my life that way. I figure my brother, who's a bit older than I am, quite a bit, just in case he's listening. But we used to talk about this, and he's someone who researches and studies and learns, and which is awesome, and it serves him very well. And would say I'm the one. I'll jump off a cliff and know that I'll figure out how to fly before my sorry ass hits the ground. That most of the time works, I think, and I tend to do better under, well, we've said we love working by the seat of our pants, and even in writing, I'm a pantster, not a plotter, and I'm working with a writing coach, phenomenal woman, Kim Green, give her a shout out, and she says, "I'm gonna make you a plotter if it kills me." It's like, "Okay." And, but I just that's what works for me,
Yeah,
and but I think approaching change, I have felt differently, and maybe part of it was COVID,
yeah,
and part of it is aging, feeling
right.
more vulnerable and a little more, apprehensive about change and what's coming, and I'm not so sure where that's coming from. I don't know. How about
Yeah.
you?
I don't know. I mean, the one thing that the quote that always comes to me is that the only thing that's constant is change,
It's
which
change.
is kind of
Yeah.
one of those oxymoron kind of things,
Mhm.
right? It's
Mhm.
constant, but it's change. But it's true. I mean, I don't think there a day does not go by that I'm experiencing change, whether it's in my relationships or my work life or my family life and things like that. And I think that's why we thought this was going to be such an important conversation
Do
today.
you think you just are more aware of it or in tune with it or paying attention to it because of where you are in your life? I mean, health staying with me. I've got a good 30 years ahead of me,
Yeah,
35 probably
absolutely.
based on a lot of my members in my family. If you think back 30 years, a lot happened in those 30
Yes.
years, but when I think of where I am now and I think of that, it's like, "Oh my god, there's not that much time." So do you
No, and yes, sometimes I do, and I think we talked about this last month. Was that sometimes I look at what's ahead of us is much shorter amount of time than where we came from. But I
Yeah,
agree with you. Like I'm 66, and I also believe I have at least another 30 years ahead of me. I have good genes, and my parents, thank
yeah.
goodness, are still alive, and so it for me, I think the change is more obvious because there's health issues, and so it
Mhm.
makes you think about things that maybe you didn't think about 30 years ago. You didn't think about somebody getting ill, and that a family member or a significant other or friend. I mean, you've had friends who have had obviously severe illness and have passed. I
Mhm.
think that's the change. That was why change seems to be a little bit shorter, and it feels like it's happening faster and faster and faster because life is moving fast. That's why I said in the beginning, it's March. I don't understand literally how we
Yeah.
got to March.
But
It's
I think also it's coming to terms with your mortality.
right, right,
And even, I don't move as quickly as I did 15 or
right,
20 years ago, or as long, or as I'm not inclined to do do things or participate in things that I might have
Right.
back then. And I see that that is changing in relationships.
Yeah.
And I'm more appreciative of, I've always been somebody, I have a lot of acquaintances.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a lot of close friends, and that's completely wonderful for me.
Right.
Um, but I find even more now, I'm less tolerant of a lot of stuff. I think that it makes me, again, more appreciative and less tolerant, but also more inquisitive. I'm like, am I the only one? Am I a freak thinking this way?
Well, you're not. If you're a freak, I'm a freak.
Well,
um,
we're in good company.
I think here's the thing. I think that things that we used to be okay with,
Mhm.
we've grown, and we have realized that just because we were okay with it before doesn't mean it was actually okay. And that's the kind of thing that I'm kind of grappling with right now. Things that I just said, oh, it's okay. They do. Now it's like, life's too
It's
short.
not okay.
I
I'm
don't,
glad to hear you say that, and I want you to talk about this more. We put out questions every month, and
right,
one was, how do I deal with feeling pressure from outside? And specifically, though not only,
right,
social media. So,
right.
like, the question was, I'm part of a big community on, in social media, and I feel that if I don't want to participate in things, I'm kind of chastised. And what do I do?
Yeah,
That's a great question, and it's
yeah.
everywhere, and it's every age. It's not just in our age group.
No, it's but
Everyone's feeling it.
yeah, but the
But,
difference in this age is how we approach it,
oh, yes,
right?
you
When
kind of
I
don't expect it, and then there it is.
Yeah, I remember being in high school and I remember feeling like I didn't belong. And I would make decisions hoping that if I said yes to something that I might belong and that they would like me. I feel like Sally Fields. They like me. They really like me. And here we are, fast forward to now, and I still feel the peer pressure. And
Really,
but the difference now is that I've never been a joiner in the first place. And now I feel like I'm giving myself permission. I don't have to be a joiner. And it's
I
okay if
love
I
that.
don't want to do those things. And
Mhm.
it is more and more on social media. The more I see what's going on in social media, and again, I'm sure we all have our feelings. I'm sure our audience has their feelings about what social media is. It used to be one thing, and now it seems to
Yeah,
be something completely different. It feels a little bit icky to me, and I don't go on as much anymore because I realize, who cares if somebody doesn't like me, right? Who cares? It feels so high school. And in fact, that's kind of what I went through for a while. I felt like I was back in high school again. Like, oh, if I don't do this, they're not going to like me. And how
I
ridiculous.
remember
I'm six
thinking that
years old.
when my first book, when I started doing interviews, and am have always been painfully shy.
Mhm.
And people that know me don't think that, because in my group with my people, I'm
Right,
not.
right,
But I was always behind the camera, never, and I was always, they wanted me to
right,
be on camera, and that was pain, no way. So
right,
then I started doing these interviews, and I mean, this is the kind of thing, like, I would get up and speak, even in a group of friends, and I would be like fighting back, like nervous tears. Like, that's how
right.
nervous I would get.
Yeah,
And I started doing interviews, and I wasn't nervous. And then I started thinking about it and said, I don't really care if I mean, I don't want to offend somebody, but if I say
right,
something somebody doesn't agree with or doesn't like,
right,
or they take away something, that's on them. And I'm just trying to do my best,
right.
and that's okay. I am super, super sensitive, and I still will feel like if I do something, I don't wanna hurt somebody, even though I will come across like I don't care, I do care.
Yeah,
And I don't want to. I was part of a group, like a private DM group on Instagram, not too
yeah.
long ago, and I just wasn't feeling it, and it took me forever to leave the group because I didn't
Right.
want to hurt anyone's feelings
And we
or be
talked
thought
about
of as
this.
a bad person, and then
Yeah.
I thought, "You know, I don't really," that I didn't care. It's like, if that's
Who
how they
cares?
feel, that's okay. I'm not feeling this, and it gives room for somebody who does, so it's a better thing. But
I,
that's
I
hard to
think,
figure
yeah,
out.
I think we wake up one day and we say we're tired of the bullshit and we don't have to deal with this anymore. And for me, it's cathartic. It's almost like, oh, I really don't have to do this. And look, nobody is like giving me weird looks, and nobody is like talking, at least I don't think so. Nobody's talking about me, but
Yeah.
even if they were, it wouldn't really matter.
And it's on them, not
Yeah,
you.
because we're confident how we show up, and I think that
Yeah.
that really is. I think as we age, and I think this is the big thing, as we age, we either get more confident or we hide and we go into the house and we
So,
hide.
you know, the other thing I think at this stage too, we're not like if I wish like I do wish I could age backwards, and that I felt like this in my 20s because I think I would have chosen many roads professionally, at least differently.
Mhm.
And but I think when you're this age, you don't look ahead of you for the next 60 years
Right.
thinking, I've got to build this. Everything I have and want to do is in front of me,
Right.
and there's so much at stake. Now we do look
Right.
at what's behind us, and so the stakes are different,
Right.
and I think that that really matters in how you show up, or should matter for
It
you.
should, I
Take
think it
care of
should
yourself.
matter.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing is to acknowledge that we individually may not be somebody else's cup of tea.
What?
Yeah, exactly. But didn't we always think up
100%.
until as now we it was like, "Oh, they don't like
We have
me,
to like
but I
everybody,
have
and
to
everybody
change,
has
I
to
have to
like
change, I've got." Now it's we're I accept,
us.
I'm not, and in fact, even in business, I do the same thing. I actually will tell potential clients,
Not a
um,
good fit.
maybe I'm not your cup of tea and it's okay. I won't be offended. Or you know what, this I might even say, you know what, I don't think this is a good fit. And you
Yeah,
know what? I feel like, oh, I
breathe.
stood up for myself. I
Mhm,
spoke for myself and the other person wasn't offended. Because I think that when you can walk that talk,
mhm.
other people say, "Oh, well, she's doing it. Maybe I should try that.
Yeah,
Maybe I don't have to do it." So I kind of figure that I'm a little bit of an example that way, but I truly just don't care anymore. And it's kind of a weird thing to really say that out loud because I honestly, Mel, as I'm sitting here, I really don't care.
I know.
There's too many things that have gone on in all of our worlds, as we have talked ad nauseum. In my world, there's been a lot of health challenges, and when you have health challenges, that changes
Nothing else
your perspective
matters.
on everything
It puts
else.
everything in perspective.
It
You
does.
know, we last month we went on a Valentine's cruise, and it's funny because Dean, I mean, we we enjoy life,
Mhm.
and we especially enjoy being around our kids and their friends and younger people,
Right.
and it's not uncommon that we'll stay up and hang with everybody, and this time we didn't, and we really enjoyed a very different experience, listening to music, having wonderful dinners with our friends, and we walking the ship at night instead of, that next day's going to the casino for another hour or whatever, and
Right.
it was kind of we talked about it, it was like, yeah, it was kind of we kind of felt like grown-ups.
And that's not a bad thing, right?
Awesome.
It's not a
Yeah,
bad
and it's
thing.
being comfortable in your own skin, and it's more than that, it's the expectations I think that you manage for yourself,
Mhm.
and appreciating, again, where you are on the journey, and perspective, and health does play into it
It
because
totally does, and our physical being changed, plays into it, and the changes in our physical body also play into it as well. I don't know about you. I mean, I went for a mammogram last week,
Mhm,
and every year I go for it.
mhm.
And even though there's no breast cancer in my family at all, there's
Nerve-wracking, isn't it?
there's always that fear,
Mm.
that maybe this is the year. Maybe
Well,
and
I
you,
go,
yeah,
obviously, and I've had it, and after 5 years, you're technically you go back to, well, for me, it was 7 because I stayed on tamoxifen for 7, but you go back to
hmm,
just, routine, not diagnostic, and diagnostic is when you wait in the office and they tell you right away. I'm blessed to be able to pay the difference. It
right,
I require the diagnostic still to this day because the anxiety that would come up in me having to wait that week to 10 days for the mail
right,
is
yeah,
worth every penny. So
yeah, I agree.
I
Yeah.
know what you're feeling. It's
Well, what's funny about this, and it's not funny. I mean, we know our healthcare system is broken. We know that.
yeah,
It took me
some of
6 months to get my appointment. 6 months to get my appointment.
it's
And it
ridiculous.
took 2 hours in the waiting room before they even took me in. There were people standing outside. I didn't even know I was gonna talk about this, but it goes in alignment with this. There weren't enough seats in the waiting room. They were so backed up. So I went in there. So I already had the expectation that everything else had been delayed. I was gonna have to wait for the results, right?
Wow.
I came home and there was a text. They had already read the mammogram.
That's wonderful.
I'm getting it was like immediately. And
Wow.
but then of course I was going, well, why couldn't they have been that way all the way through the process? But of course, I'm not going to look gift. I'm fine,
Yeah,
100% fine, and I
right.
may be allowed to breathe for another year.
Yeah.
Just a case, but they got it done, which tells me that they can get it done. Why
Yeah.
don't they?
And the way I approach it, and the way that I keep and I've talked about my anxiety with my health, and I've written about it at great length.
Mhm.
Um, I go in, I mean, I pray that everything's okay, but for me, I know that I do take care of my health. I do stay on top of all my appointments. I
Right,
don't miss anything. So if there is something, it is so new
right,
that gives me comfort, and that
right.
helps me kind of keep those demons at bay. Just hard.
Yeah, but it's why we also that, and it's this nice segue right into the whole physical piece in
Taking
the
care of
physical change.
ourselves.
We have a great sponsor.
We do. Miss Elaine and Core Strength 50 is still my go-to, and frankly, on the cruise, it was so easy. It's everywhere. 20 minutes. If you don't have 20, you can do one round. It's 10. Take a look and see what you think.
If you're over 50 and you've hit a brick wall with your training, or you're just plain bored with your workouts, I get it. I've been there too. But don't give up or give in. Put yourself first. I've designed 20-minute holistic workout programs for us, and it's doable in 20 with consistency. CoreStrength50plus.com. You can change your body at any age.
Hey guys, don't forget to check out corestrength50plus.com. She has a really, really cool perky butt exercise so you can all have a perky butt. I know that we all want a perky butt. So check it out.
And it works. I love it. It's
You
fun.
have a perky butt, Mel. We know you do have
Well,
a
I try, but
perky.
it's a good series. It's really, really good.
Yeah,
And
and in addition to that, I also walk, as you know. I put as
same.
you walk as well. We take our dogs for a walk. It's a great way to stay in shape. So as we get to this age, the changes in our body are obvious, and as long as we keep it up, I feel like we can live forever. That's what it feels like. Is if we keep taking care of our bodies, we have the
I think
maximum.
the walking, has gotten more important to me
Mhm.
because it's become a bit of a spiritual
Yeah,
retreat for me, whether it's with my dogs or by myself.
right.
I really love the quiet
Hmm.
and being out, and I live in this desert Southwest. It's just in all its glory every day. It's God's country. It's just incredible. And I
Yeah.
think about it was so funny. So Mel Robbins, one of our episodes, talked about birds. If you listen to birds for like 5 seconds,
Well,
even
right,
like
right,
it
right.
was a very short time, it can actually make you happy. And I went on like frantically and found bird apps because I'm going to do that. And then I'm walking outside and I'm hearing every bird under the sun. I'm thinking I don't need an
You
app.
don't need a bird app.
I live in pure heaven, and it does make you happy. I'm not a good person if I don't have my walks. I'm not happy to it's worse than if I don't have my coffee.
I hear you on that. And I'm wondering, the whole thing with the birds and stuff,
Mhm.
is that why we love having bird feeders and hummingbird feeders in our backyard? To hear
Maybe.
all the birds chirping every morning, I wake up to birds. It's
I know.
amazing here. It's
Yeah.
it's amazing. I love that. Now, one of the other things that changes as we get older is our emotional, you know,
Mhm.
ability to respond to things.
Mhm.
Or not respond to things and about being vulnerable and all of those things. How is that changing for you, Mel, as we're getting older?
I really question the vulnerability component. And I feel it more, and I don't know. And it really came to the surface during COVID. So I think there were just so many unknowns happening then, and it was a scary time for everybody. But I don't know. It struck me, and what we talked about earlier, how we approach things, we just kind of go for it. I felt like a little bit of that was taken away. I'm not so willing to do those things now. I'm not so willing to fly by the seat of my pants. I
Yeah,
need to feel a little more security,
right.
and I am more needing to be in touch with my spirituality to help with that, and it does. My prayers, my friends that are involved in the same pursuits, we really hold each other up and help each other in that way.
Well, it's funny. Even my husband and I, now that he's passing through this cancer experience and he's now kind of getting through the other end, we have been talking about the whole spirituality thing and whole um, taking classes together and learning together and experiencing together. And, he's 11 years older than I am. And so there's a whole thing, with that is, but he, for the first time ever in our entire relationship since 1983, was never willing to do any of this kind of stuff, the spiritual
Oh,
stuff, this self development, and he is now.
wonderful.
Yeah, it's nice to
Yeah,
have a partner in crime with that.
it is. And I think that however you find the chance to go through it and the way to go through it
Right.
is what matters. If it's not working, it's okay to change it. Just like, friendships, if they're not working, it's okay. We
Okay.
all are changing. And if people and situations served you in a way that no longer do, it's okay to let them go.
Have you heard the expression that people come into our lives for a reason, a
Season.
season, or a lifetime? I think that that expression on it all periods of our life actually makes sense. And so I think that we run through that filter, right? Those
Mhm,
friends that came into our life because we needed them for whatever, and they needed us. They're
mhm.
not there. They're not our friends anymore, and it's not a good or a bad thing. Simply, it was done, right?
But you know what? Don't you go to that place.
Hmm.
I do. I shouldn't say don't you, but I go to that place if a friendship is changing and it's like, did I do something? Is there something wrong with me that I can't keep friendships or that I'm not holding on to this person in this way? And getting to the point where you say, no, it is okay because they're going through changes too, and they need different things and different experiences in their lives that
Right.
they're probably not getting from you either. And it is so it is, it's okay. It is
Yeah,
all
it is okay. It totally is okay. And as we were making this list of
Mhm.
things that change in our lives, the big change for us as co-hosts of this show is our professional lives are changing as well. We're really excited because we are now on YouTube. How fun is that? And that's different for us. We started
It
as
is.
a live show, right? We were a live show. And then we were a podcast. And then we were a podcast that also had video. And you and I had this whole long conversation of we need to do us. We don't need to do what everyone else is telling us what we need to do, right?
Back to that peer pressure thing.
Peer pressure, right? And so we decided to launch our YouTube channel. I mean, literally, we just launched the YouTube channel. So, you guys know I love technology. So we have a QR code over here, and literally all you need to do is take your phone and put it on camera, and it will automatically scan that and will take you over to YouTube. And so we are making a request of everyone who is watching this. Our request is go and subscribe because you will get notifications every time we have a new show. And there's a lot of new things that are coming out as well that we're not going to talk about
No,
today,
it's
but
a
you
surprise.
want to be subscribed because you will miss some of the stuff that we are going to be doing.
That's really cool. It
Yeah.
is, and that goes back to what we talked about being open to change
Yeah.
because we were both kind of not heels in the sand, but a little bit
Yeah.
about some of the changes that were presented to us and
Yeah.
opportunities that were
Right.
presented to
Yeah.
us that we didn't see coming and we didn't really think
Right.
about.
Right.
And then we thought, why not? You know what? Life is short and fun, and let's
Yeah.
enjoy it.
And be open. Be
Yeah,
open.
yeah.
Because if you're not open, you won't even see it that it's
I
in front
know.
of you, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So we had another question that came in. This question was for you, Mel, and it isn't a lot. It actually is one of the other changes that happen, and that's the whole grandparents are raising the kids and intergenerational stuff. And
Mhm.
somebody sent. I'm going to read this. Somebody sent in a
Okay.
question specifically to you. You have spoken about having your kids back at home with you. One of my adult kids is moving back home. Do you have any tips? I would love some tips. Great question.
Oh
So
my
what can you
gosh.
share?
Oh, okay. Well, first, thank you, and I appreciate that, and I am excited for you. I have had both of my children and my daughter-in-law and their now baby, their almost 2-year-old baby with us. It's been an incredible experience. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I think
Yeah,
you got to set boundaries. I would recommend, and just build on the relationships. And the funnest thing was having my adult children home in their home, in their back in their rooms, and but they're adults. They're the kids that left. So it really is starting over and appreciating and respecting where they are in their life too. I'm always their mom, but I'm not mama bear getting their, getting off to school and getting them to their, games and whatever. So I would just say set boundaries, very clear ones, and be flexible if
Right.
and appreciate that it's, I would assume it's temporary. In fact, I had a total meltdown. I'm making this public now. So my youngest moved into the house that he was building. He just closed. He moves in next week, so he'll be leaving. And when he was going through that a few weeks ago, Matthew and Heather started looking for a house, and he
Oh,
went when COVID started. He's an editor and a producer in LA, and they came here full time. But he was free. He went freelance, so he had to, have um, 2 years of that under his belt to qualify.
right.
And that time has come, and so now they're looking, and I just
Oh
drove
my
away
gosh,
from
I'm feeling
Esther,
terrible for you right now.
pulled over, and just had a little sob fest for myself. It's like, oh my God, my nest is going to be empty. And then I put it all in perspective, and how blessed I am that they're in the same town, which I really never expected, and
Wow.
that's awesome. So it was funny, and then, and I have friends that have had their kids home, and they are kind of excited that they leave because they keep house differently, and, it's crowded. Things change. You have to be able to,
Right,
kind of go with the flow on that, and that is the biggest thing I would encourage you to do. Again, thank you for your question, is to be flexible and really appreciate that it's temporary, that these moments won't come again.
right,
So as different as they are,
right.
enjoy them, because I've had the best, what, God, now 3 years. It's
I'm
incredible.
jealous. I actually am jealous. I sometimes think about the idea of having a compound where the whole family lives in
I
homes on.
totally want that.
How
Uh,
fun would that be? Not
I
just
told
fun.
Matthew and Heather, I said, "You can move. Isla Joy is staying here, my granddaughter. You can come visit anytime, and the dog, their dog." But that's just, yeah, compound is, I think that's kind of my husband's dream. And we got this land, and we're building this
I
big,
know. I
and
know.
we keep joking. It's like, "Well, we have room. We can build another house for you."
No, and I don't think I would have ever even wanted that when I was 30. And I think that's the change too. I
Yeah.
think that that's all part of this whole conversation is that we start thinking about things that we never would have wanted as youngsters, as 20 years old, as 30
Why
years old.
why would you?
Of
But
course,
you're in
why
a
would you?
totally I wouldn't expect them to sit back and think the way that I do about something, the with the same, implications or
Right,
needs or wants,
right,
um, any more, like you say, than you would have at 30, because you're in a building mode
right.
at that age. You're not in an enjoying, settling back, winding down mode that I think,
Yeah,
for the most part, we are.
for the most part.
I don't know. Relationships change.
Absolutely.
It's crazy, and I wanna take this opportunity to introduce this month's interview with Julie Chan, and she's a very successful, interviewer. She's got a great show. I first came across her years ago. She had like a watch party for the royal wedding, and then she interviewed me on her show, and we've stayed in touch and stayed friends from afar all these years, and she's gone through so many changes that I thought this would be great to talk with her. And then lo and behold, when we finally got to sit down and catch up, she threw some major curveballs. And again, you'll see, and when you see the entire interview, which I encourage you to watch, and you can see it with that YouTube link, the way she approaches change. And I think we can learn so much from her. So please enjoy Julie Chan. So all of these changes, I mean, my God, the biggest change, 2020, the pandemic. How did that time affect you and your pursuits, whether, with your family, with news, and your career?
So I don't actually attribute this huge epiphany and change to the pandemic per se, but I did have a life change during the pandemic. And I've heard that many people did. And I am apparently one of those many, which is the realization that my marriage didn't work and it wasn't for me anymore. Um, it the light went on just before the pandemic. And looking back, I think it was years before that sort of the writing was on the wall, and there were things particularly that my daughters were saying. When my oldest daughter was 5 years old, she said, I'm never getting married and I'm never having kids. And that broke my heart because I thought, oh my gosh, that is a reflection of me. I must not show her that I enjoy motherhood or I enjoy marriage, and I must make it look terrible that this is not a life she wants.
I can only imagine how devastating that, because I know how important your family is to you.
I never ever imagined getting a divorce. Divorce was the big D word. It's like, who does that? Like, not me, not anybody I know, not anybody, in my family. Like, that will never happen to me no matter what. I will work through it. And just before the pandemic hit, I had interviewed a book author, and I came home really late one night, and I somehow realized that this was not even a relationship. There was no conversation. I was so excited about this interview I had just done with this 97-year young book author who wrote a book and published it at that age.
Wow.
And I got to interview her at this beautiful private club in Pasadena, and there were over 200 people there. And, we were up on a platform, and there were cameras and lights, and it was such a fun experience. And I thought, I can't even share this with my husband because he's actually not going to care. I don't think that this is the marriage, this is the partner that is going to be able to support me in this journey. And I'm not talking financially. Financially, he was always very supportive. But there's just so much more than that. I have so many career aspirations, and I know that I'm here to do really big things, and I will make it on my own, and I will be a role model to my daughters that they do anything and they don't have to be in a relationship for financial stability.
Well, we're back. How did you enjoy that? Isn't she amazing?
She was so
amazing.
open to being vulnerable about the biggest change in her life, that being her marriage and the loss of it, and what she gained for herself and her three daughters. And I commend her for willing to discuss it and share, and she was so sweet. She said, if I can help one person go through this kind of change and these major life impacts, then I'm happy and I want to talk about it. So I really, really appreciate her
It was
sharing with our
great
community.
conversation. Check the show notes, guys. There's a YouTube link in there. You can go and listen to the entire interview. All right. I know you're going to like it. We always want to make sure that you know how to check out some of the cool things that we have. Again, QR code. Take a look that way. Take a look. Take a look up there. Scan it. That's our Uncorked playlist. Mel always puts great music in there. It's always playing in my house on the different Alexas that live all over my house. I move from room to room and the music keeps playing. So we really want you to go check that out as well. And as we said before, go ahead and subscribe to us on Uncorked Live on YouTube, because we have some really cool things that are going with that. This has been quite the conversation.
It has, and I hope it resonates with you. And if reach out to us. We love your questions, and we'll get to you privately. Just hang in there. Every day is new, and every day is, if you're open to it, presents so many awesome opportunities to go through changes. And those changes can be really exciting. We hope you've enjoyed the show and that you will stay with us. We'll see you next month right here on Uncorked Live.
See you later, everyone. Bye.
This is your time. Make the most of it.